Welcome everyone to today's MGA webinar, Web to App Strategy, Maximize Market Share, Save Money, and Improve Trafficking. Today we have with us George from Lingokids and Luis from TheVentureCity. They'll be discussing how to maximize market share, improve web tracking, and much more. If you have any questions for them during their fireside chat, please don't hesitate to drop them in the Q&A and we'll get them after the interview block. George and Luis, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Hi guys, I'm super happy to be here in this fireside chat. Today, together with Luis, we're going to discuss a very interesting topic for mobile industry, web to web strategy, how to maximize market share, save money, etc., etc. And first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm George from Lingokids, the English learning app for kids, which help parents raise an amazing children and break down educational barriers to create equal opportunities for all kids. Instead of wasting your time and money on boring English courses, I recommend you try our app if you want your kids to study English in an entertainment way, like games and other cool activities. Another use case for our app might be due to this COVID situation, if you are stuck at home with your kids and don't know how to entertain them, instead of useless games, you can give a try for educational games through our app. Today I have a unique guest, growth marketing lead at TheVentureCity, Luis Guzman. Hi Luis, how are you?
Hey George, and thank you for all of the attendees as well. So I'm Luis Guzman. My background is on growth and marketing. I'm part of TheVentureCity. TheVentureCity is a venture capital fund, but we are kind of a different model. Our approach is to give more than money, and we offer helps to companies in the areas of product, growth, and engineering. And we also have a growth program where we invest in early stage startups, and it's a 5 months program, 100K in exchange of some percentage of the company, and we run advice in the areas of product, growth, and engineering. And yeah, happy to be here and waiting for your questions, George.
Great, Luis. I'm also super happy that I catch you, because you are the guy who has a mixing of technical and marketing skills. It's very rare in our industry, in startup industry, and I'm super happy that you have a time to come and join us. So I have first a warm-up question for you. How a company can expand market share via web, in your opinion?
Okay, so how can a company can expand market share? So I think this will be a little bit of a long answer, but I will start first of all with 3 questions that every company can ask themselves to start with. Not that even to think about web, I will say you can start with these 3 questions. So the first one, if the nature of your product generated a lot of user-generated content, meaning that you have a product or a company or a service that have a community, or your own users are generated a lot of content that could be interesting for search engines. So that would be the first question that I will ask, because that matters a lot to understand if you should develop a web strategy or not, because a good amount of that user-generated content could be super valuable to rank for certain keywords within your web, and that could be a potential big channel to discover your product or service. So that's the first question. The second question is the nature of your product make sense to position some search queries in the market? Meaning that are people looking at Google for any particular query that will find your product, or are you going to solve the problem? So that can be the second question that I can ask. There's, by the nature of some companies, there are companies that doesn't make any sense at all to grab a portion of the market from Google, but there are definitely other companies where, there are millions of people out there asking questions where you can be positioned into those queries in the search engines. And the third question, and this is my personal favorite one, is the search intention from these people looking in Google connected into business conversion. So oftentimes you can also say that you are position your web towards some queries that solve people questions, but that doesn't convert in business conversions at all. So you're solving a question, they're happy about that, you're solving their question, or you are answering what they're looking for, but that doesn't translate into business conversion. So that would be kind of the last, in my opinion, the most important question to ask, even before to think about a web strategy. If you are at least answering yes to those three, out of those three questions, I will say that you're in a good position to start with that. And then how can we execute a web strategy? So I like to separate this in two areas. The first one, or two, instead of two areas, I would say we'll call it two playbooks. So the first playbook will be kind of the gaining market share via paid ads, via paid acquisition. So this is a playbook that we can super quickly understand the landscape of competitors, what are some opportunities for some keyword with high volume and not that much competition that you can take advantage and grab market share over there. By the nature of Google Ads or Bing Ads or any other search networks, is a channel that you can also optimize to the detail, and you can try to match the channel to your unit economics. So it's a great channel to start with. It's super easy to understand. One thing that I will consider that I do see a lot of marketers and business owners making this kind of mistake is that they think about stealing market share. So they are thinking, okay, so if we are having a web campaign, let's try to beat or target our competitor's name on Google Ads. And I can tell you that 95% of the times, that doesn't work at all in terms of unit economics. So sometimes you can protect or steal market share because any particular reason, but if you want to have a return of investment out of those ads, stealing your competitors' keywords from paid advertising, in the experience that I had before, it almost never works. So you can be aware of that. So that for me could be more or less the playbook number one.
Mm-hmm. What about if we talk about SEO? Yeah, like if the company doesn't have a SEO, is it worth to start from scratch?
Yeah, so I will say that SEO and the organic aspect of it is kind of the playbook number two. And the playbook number two is completely different about playbook number one. And the main reason is that it's a long-term game. So all of us already know that SEO is a long-term game. So it's important to align the expectations of the organization and develop patience to that channel. And it's important that develop patience to wait for the results of that channel doesn't mean that while you develop patience, your execution will be weak. On the other hand, you should be super strong, aligned with all of the organization that is going to be an important effort in terms of SEO. And you are going to take it serious, because I have seen some companies that say, yeah, let's start working on SEO and I can do, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and let's see in 6 months what happens. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. If you want to see results in 6 months, that is already kind of an important timeline for some companies. We are talking about even 2 quarters. You need to take it serious, align all of the organization, and touch over all of the aspects of SEO, technical aspect, content marketing, PR, backlinks, all of the topics related to that. One mistake that I see that a lot of companies are doing when they are thinking about the SEO is that they don't think about the potential incremental that they can get from SEO. And what I mean by that is that there are companies that say, I want to do SEO, but in reality, when you look at their market and you look at the volume share from the aggregated keywords within their market, the volume, it doesn't make any sense for them to start working on SEO. So checking the volume, and that will be a potential incremental conversions in your business from SEO. It's also a common mistake that all of you should be aware as well.
Okay, cool. If we talk about the moving to web campaigns, is moving of web campaigns is the proper alternative way if we take into account situation or IDFA? What do you think? Like, should startups move to web instead of wasting the time and money on app?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to get into the details of the whole IDFA conversation. You will find a lot of information out there, and there are experts that will answer this better than me. But what I can tell you is that I know that one thing about search ads and targeting the web that you cannot do it on mobile apps. And the main reason is that you have up to 3 times more variables to optimize versus a mobile app campaign. So that thing particularly about search web campaigns is a whole reason to start taking serious of that channel. And again, coming back to the first question that I recommend you to ask, if you have enough user-generated content, or if you can turn the queries from the Google into business conversion, if you are okay with that, I will definitely start doing some testing on web marketing campaigns, just because you can have a great sense of what to optimize and how to adapt the channel to match the unit economics and the goals of the companies as well.
Okay, cool. And what do you think, in your opinion, what are the common mistakes that startups are doing when executing web marketing campaigns with the purpose of getting mobile installs?
Okay, cool. So I will say that the first mistake that some companies are doing is that they have weak landing pages to get mobile app installs. So, and it's super common to happen because a landing page that you have optimized to get a website conversion, it's completely different to a landing page where your goal is to get a mobile app. So the first mistake that I'm seeing is weak landing page to get a mobile app installed. The second mistake that I start seeing is that you are not keeping geographical behaviors in consideration. And that means that, for example, in the US, a landing page where your objective is to get a mobile app installs should have definitely the Text Me the app option. And that works amazingly well in the US. If you do the same in Europe, is not going to work at all. That nobody puts their phone number to get links to download the app. That is not part of the behavior of this particular geography in some part of Europe. But whereas in the US is kind of the main thing that all of the players are doing it. You also have the example of Latin. In Latin, where you are seeing right now is that you have a lot of options of send me the app download link to WhatsApp. Because WhatsApp is more generalized in terms of usage in Latin compared to the rest of the world, and it's a behavior that is on them. A lot of players are doing, and you can take advantage of that behavior as well. So that will be for me mistake number 2: not keeping enough the geographical behaviors in all of the geographies. And honestly, I will say that the third mistake that the companies are doing is that they are kind of being afraid of start testing a web environment to get mobile app installed. And I get it. It's completely normal that you are going to be afraid, because you are putting kind of a wall in the middle of your whole funnel, and that wall will mean that your conversion rate is going to decrease. And it makes sense to be, okay, so I'm maybe not even going to test the channel, because I'm just going to have one more step on my conversion funnel that will be decreasing. I'm not going to have the right CAC. Maybe the lifetime value will be kind of different. So I will tell you, stop being afraid, because as I mentioned before, a web paid advertising campaign have up to 3 more variables to optimize for. And I can assure you that you can optimize those variables in order to match the unit economics that you're having on your current mobile apps campaign. That currently right now is kind of a black box, but having the variables optimized and the controlling, the iterating, I can assure you that you can match your unit economics, and you just need to stop being afraid and test it out. So that would be the 3 main mistakes.
Cool. If I want to come back with SEO, and I want to ask you, because for instance, a company doesn't care about web, and suddenly he it starts to to think about SEO without web development. What is your opinion? Is it the proper way to do this, or it should be aligned with web development and also together with UX and together with some implementation, non SEO stuff that's gonna increase the conversion rate as well? What do you think?
Sure. So an SEO strategy have being generalist have 3 main parts. No? So the first one is being indexed or index section, and that means that even the search engines are able to read that you exist. So that's kind of the first step that you need to make sure that is happening correctly within your website. And for that, you will need to be either the product or the engineering team involved on that aspect of the equation. Why? Because improving indexation and making sure that all of the majority of the URL or the URLs that you want to be indexed are being written by the search engines. That would be the first step, and that definitely needs the involvement of a product or engineering team. The second step is how are we being ranked from those URLs that are already indexed. And that means is even we're being ranked. And second question, what is the position that we are being ranked? And for that, you get that you will need more involvement from a marketing perspective point of view, because you will need to start working on content marketing development. You will need to start aligning the content creation that you are doing with some other landing pages that can potentially target or improve your position versus the competitors in sort of the keywords. So I will say it's a combination, and that's why at the beginning and the first question I mentioned that is an organization effort, and it's not just one person that is going to do SEO or just one team that is going to do SEO. You need involvement for the whole organization. You need patience, and definitely, if you want to be in depth understand by Google, you need the involvement or a product or a technical team from your organization.
Okay, cool. Like last question from my side, my favorite question: what is your recent epic fail regarding this topic? Luis, please share with us.
I mean, I have been involved in, in the mistakes. Some of them typical, some of them super expensive mistakes. But I can say that a lot of marketers have been happening for the same ones. So one mistake that I was having quite recently is not passing the UTM information into the mobile app install trackers that we're having on the landing page. So that's a common one that you forget. So what happens in that mistake is that you are not tracking the first source of the paid advertising into the tracker of the mobile app install. So that's a typical mistake that happens to me recently. Or the typical of targeting the whole country in a campaign, or adding an extra zero on a budget. So instead of spending $10,000 in a campaign, you are spending 100,000. So luckily, I get aware of that mistake before the bill started to increase. But I will say that definitely the worst mistake that I have done in the past is to add the wrong link, meaning sending to another app into a landing page from a company. That was definitely the worst one. But again, in 24 hours, what fits. But I mean, it's common to have these kind of mistakes during the execution of all of our strategies.
Absolutely, man. Okay, like that's it from my side. Please, guys, if you have any questions, put in this in chat, and we're gonna answer on them.
Thank you, George and Luis. Did any of our attendees in the audience have any questions for George and Luis? Or Luis, did you have any questions for George? This has been a bit one-sided in the interview.
It is. It's a fireside chat, Casey.
That's true. That's true. Let's see. Okay, so we have one question here from Juan. What companies are innovating in web to app?
So, well, George and I come from the food delivery industry, so we are kind of aware that I'm going to say 100% of all of the players in the food delivery industry are going strong on web to app, and the reason of that is that they see web as a channel to get to keep gaining market share, especially in regions where web is predominant as a mobile, just because of the behavior, such as what we were speaking before. But I can tell you that right now it's going to get really interesting because you can see examples, for example, at Apple, that they are releasing their app clips. That is kind of a short, a super condensed version of your app. And web to app is going to get even more interesting because you are not going to need to send the whole app, but now you are going to even send to the clip app, where the user can have a small, super limited and super fast experience, and then decide if they want to have the second app. So you can see a lot of mobility apps that are going to take a lot of advantage of this clip to apps. So we are going to say that it's kind of forming a layer that instead of going web to full app, is going to be web to a clip app. I'm talking about the Apple environment, at least for now. So I can see a lot of players moving to that direction, especially industries such as mobility, GPS, kind of all of the industries that requires information fast. I do see a lot of players moving in that direction.
Also, completely agree with you, Luis, and I want to add that, of course, like if we talk about food industry, most of the big players, they they actually initially came from web, yeah, but from desktop web, and they are also right now are focusing on mobile because mobile is a huge direction and it's increasing, its share increasing like year by year. And for the players that are very strong in desktop search, sometimes there are many cases that in mobile they don't have strong results. Yeah. And for app companies that are which want to move from mobile, like from app to mobile, this might be a good niche to get a quick win instead of to moving forward with desktop search. Okay.
Excellent. We have another question from an anonymous attendee. George, can you tell us some tricks to improve ASO?
I mean, you can, yeah, of course I can tell, but the topic of this is web, and if you want me to give away some tricks to improve ASO, etc., you can feel free to, yeah, you feel free to reach me out through LinkedIn or just type my name in YouTube, and there are like some of the tips that I already gave from another interview, guys.
That will be another cool content for another webinar, because actually, if you think about it, SEO is still part of the whole web to app funnel. Because even if you are having from the web sending a user to the app, they are going to still pass through the app store. So that keeps being an important step to take care of.
Exactly. In terms of SEO, helps not only for mobile and for mobile user acquisition, but in general, like the most of the parts of SEO you can see on mobile page when you search for a specific brand or for something that branding related search. Yeah. And yeah, some of the companies still are still seeing very skeptical about this topic and about ASO, and they think that if they throw out money for user acquisition, they're gonna win a battle. But this is a very short, quick win, like very short term win. And in long term, if you are app that want to stay not for 1 quarter, but at least for, I don't know, 5 and 10 years in industry with a strong market share, you have to focus on extra optimization as well to move forward with all other channels, with user acquisition, with, I don't know, with mobile, etc. What do you think, Luis?
I totally agree with you. I still consider it's a huge step to take care of. I mean, I have seen several times when you are seeing the conversion rates, you know, from the very click from an ad to the point of the install. When you get an ASO team inside the organization, you can see a lot of improvement from there. So totally align with you on that.
Cool. So
awesome.
any other question?
Exactly what I was going to say. Do we have any final questions from our audience? We have a few minutes here that we can still get in.
Come on, guys.
Some expert advice.
Except Juan, who wants to ask anything regarding the topic, of course.
Oh, here we go. Another one. Can Google optimize? Can Google optimize to app events coming from web campaigns?
So that's a tricky one. Initially, when I was in charge of developing that campaign, it wasn't possible. And to be honest, it was kind of a nightmare even to try to optimize towards the mobile app event. So a solution and a turnaround that I have found, and actually I did it with a couple of companies in the portfolio of TheVentureCity, is that what we did is that as soon as we have the confirmation that the user sign in into the mobile app after the install, we send a webhook back that triggers a web event. So in that way, we are not actually triggering the app event, but with the webhook, we are triggering a web event, and that kind of work for both of them. So that was my turnaround. But I have to be honest that when I tried to do it for the first time, it was a nightmare.
Awesome.
Okay,
We have
more questions. Nice,
yes,
guys.
we do. So let's see. From Fritz, we have, how would web to app get tracked once iOS 14 privacy features are implemented? For example, AppsFlyer deep links would not work anymore.
Yeah, again, so what I was sharing into the conversation is that there are better experts than me into the whole IDFA topic. However, the case that I just mentioned, it will solve that. It will solve just if the user sign up into the mobile app campaign. I'm going to explain it again in case that Fritz didn't get it. So what we did for a couple of the companies at the portfolio was you have the web landing page where you're promoting your mobile app. The user click on that, installs the app. Then the user, after load the app, signups for the service, and that signups is going to trigger the sign-up event for the mobile service, but it's also going to trigger the web event confirming that the user that clicked first to download that app was successful. So that more or less can pass around, and you can attribute the source back to the paid advertising from the visitor from the web. So that's more or less how the funnel works. If the person that asked the question didn't completely get it, just reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I can send you a neat a diagram that I built when I was building those solutions. So you can see it visually. That is more easier to explain.
Cool.
Awesome. And another, Fritz says, thank you, Luis, by the way.
Cool.
Let's see here. So we also have a question from Yigar, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Would you be able to shout out a quick my first steps into starting SEO / bringing users to an app for a solo developer for e-commerce? The task is obviously large, but what would you say the starting steps would be aside from adding keywords to the website, of course?
Yeah. So for a solo developer, I will try to I will recommend a couple of things. So the first one is making sure that the content from your app is being indexed on search engines. So that will be the first easy solution. So if you have an Android app, it will be easier versus an iOS app. But at least on that way, you are making sure that the content is being indexed. But there is a caveat about that solution, that the content from an app doesn't ever have the first positions from a keyword. The first positions are going to be always a web, and the reason is simple, is because it's the fastest experience from a user perspective to get an answer to a question or to a query on Google. So in order to solve that, depending on the technology that you are using to develop your mobile app, you can create a web version of what you are doing on your app, and try to put on a nice way, on optimize it for SEO on different landing pages, or maybe on a URL structure that makes sense, all of the content that you have on your app. And if you have user generated content, meaning a community or people actually put content on your app, even more importantly, I will try to create also the web app version from your service. But coming back to the question that you are a solo developer, I will just try to make sure you're using the proper libraries, so all of your app content is being indexed on the search engines.
And
So
completely
just to add to that really quickly, sorry, George, just to add that really quickly, they did want to clarify that their app is iOS, just in case that changes anything.
Okay, so it doesn't change. It's a little bit more tricky, but still there are libraries that allow you to index all of the content that you have on your app into the search engines. The only problem is that the content will be indexed, but it may be in positions that are not attractive to you. So eventually, let's say that maybe after the developer feels confident about the way the product is to a certain stage, a decent stage, I will move forward to try to create the web app version that indexes the same content you have in your app.
Completely agree with you, Luis. And from my side only, I can say that also you can focus on a content that is very recent and people are, in special, I don't know, in special situation like in COVID, what they are interested in, because most of the companies, they are targeting only for generic content, and they are missing this opportunity to catch this unique situation that people get, and the searchers, the people are search different stuff during this period, yeah. And if you get this, you will win your niche, and you will increase your visibility.
Awesome. We are out of time and also out of questions, so that's a really good way to end things. Thank you again, Luis and George, for joining us. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us as well. Please check in every Thursday. We generally will have something here at MGA for you. Just check out mobilegrowthassociation.com for more, and have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.
Thank you.
So
It was
much,
a pleasure, Casey.
Yeah.